If I never make any...
keeps me young.
Yeah, if I say, oh,
I get to watch them play with their phones, and they put their
Their
little
newfangled devices.
I don't understand it, but I know what they're doing.
Always talking about the algorithm and tiki-taki.
I remember when Algorithm was vice president. Welcome back.
We're back, Vince.
We can actually say that this time.
Yeah.
We can actually say welcome back. Because this isn't
the official episode 2.
The official episode 2. We're even wearing the same clothes as we were.
We should keep that going.
I wonder how we did that. Yeah, every 30 episodes and we don't change. Today.
Who we got?
I'm very excited about this. Today, we have a good friend of mine. I don't know that you know him.
I don't.
And his name is Sam Tinnesz.
Sam Tinnesz.
Sam Tinnesz is a powerhouse musician, genuine guy, a ginger.
Oh.
Yeah. Rare.
Be wary.
We hooked a real one, guys. And you know what? I've known Sam for a long time. I think we're going on probably 11 years.
Oh, wow.
If you have watched television at all in the last decade, you have heard his voice, you've heard his music.
No way. What?
He is that guy.
No way.
He is like the film TV magician musician.
Insane.
Yeah, that was really hard to say, by the way. And I just need recognition that I pulled it off.
Yeah, I'm validating you.
Yeah, thank you for the validation. I can't do it.
Yeah, no.
It was a one and done.
Don't try.
Yeah, it's over. So I'm excited to get into that conversation. Kadin, what's going on in your life?
Man,
Great. So thank you for listening. We're super excited about what's happening. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's all right, bro.
Give us the quick.
We don't need an update.
No, you know
it's about
what?
what's happening
You
here.
know what?
What's happening now?
And look at all that's happening.
Yeah.
Look at this dismal cave.
Yeah. We're in an attic.
It's an attic.
But this is where we podcast, and it's the only place we can find respite. You know,
respite. This is the only place we could find respite from the. We're in downtown Franklin, Tennessee, a city built on respite.
Yeah, exactly.
Kadin, give us 30 seconds. Tell us the.
Man,
here we go.
It's a slow period. I was talking with a friend of mine the other day who was he was elaborating on the creative's output seasons. I thought that was interesting. He was saying like any creative has a season of output, and there's ebbs and flows, so high output seasons and low output seasons. And this particular person who was telling me was like, man, I'm entering a high output season as a creative. I'm making. And I'm like, I'm probably in the intermediate between the two. I'm on the, if it's a bell curve, I'm on the up, you know?
Wow.
Between a low output season and a high one. So I'm optimistic.
I don't know that I've ever been in either. I may have just spent years and years and years where you were in the middle.
In the middle.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know that I've ever been able to say I'm creating nothing, and if I've ever been able to say I'm just doing all of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. So you would say you're in the upswing?
I think so.
Yeah. We like to hear that.
Totally.
That's good news. Thanks for sharing.
Absolutely.
Kadin's Corner. I don't want to be this guy to you. I don't know why I'm defaulting to
I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'm embracing it.
I'm not. It hurts me.
I'm embracing it.
I don't want you to embrace it.
We're characters.
We're putting on.
You get the mic, you become a character.
You put on your boxing gloves and you go to town.
That's right. I got to hear from Sam. Let's do it.
Let's hear from Sam. Everybody, I hope you enjoy this episode. Sam Tinnesz. Beep. Sam Tinnesz.
This is fancy.
It's really happening.
I really like this.
Sam, I've known you a long time.
Yeah.
You're a good friend. I think that I've known you now close to a decade, if not more.
I think you're right, which is crazy.
I think we literally, as of maybe this moment, be tripping over the decade speed bump.
That is so old.
Which is actually pretty crazy.
Pretty soon we're gonna have a teenager of a friendship.
Yikes. Right now our friendship is just a grumpy preteen filled with hormones and angry and doesn't know why. So, which is appropriate.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think that fits.
That adds up. Sam, I'll start each of these with a question, and you have to answer it.
Okay.
And you have to answer it as truthfully and as honestly as you can.
Oh,
Sam
gosh.
Tinnesz, what is it that you think that you, sir, are best at?
Oh, gosh.
If I need to repeat the question, I can.
No, I mean, I think it's changed over the years. I think when I was younger, I was best at being extroverted, over the top, just the main character energy without it being inauthentic. I think now I've found a more pulled back version of that where I make connections with people, but I do like it on a one-on-one basis. And I love kind of going deep with people and asking them big questions. And so I think connecting with people is probably my biggest strength.
Do you feel like have you felt yourself become less of an extrovert?
For sure. I think like when I was younger, my biggest strength was like connecting with a bunch of people, and in a way of like just kind of surface level. But I feel like I have more deeper connections with more people as I've gotten older, and I know what questions to ask, and I can kind of like now having 3 kids, like I know the archetype of the oldest child, the middle child, the youngest child, because I never had any siblings growing up. So I take that into account when I'm communicating with people. I take the Enneagram sometimes into account. I just feel like I can read people a little bit better as I've gotten older. And then honestly, people always surprise me. So, it's a mixture. Like I think, So I don't know. I think connection is my superpower if I had to pick one.
You're really good at connecting others too. You're very good at that. That's the thing you do.
I think
well.
it was like connecting others, connecting individually. Like, I think that connection piece is just like some spiritual gifting of sorts. You know?
Sam Tinnesz, the human Lego. Well, that does it for this episode. Man, you know what's funny? I used to make fun of people who talked about birth order.
Oh yeah.
My wife comes from a big family. There's a lot of them, and she would talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, that's not real. That stuff's not real.
Same.
And then I had 3 kids.
Yeah.
And it's real.
It's wild.
I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you, it's real.
It's wild.
Because even though I have a sibling, but we're 8 years apart.
Yeah.
So like I got to be an only child, and a firstborn, and then she got to be an only child, too. After I left the house, and so it's kind of like we both, I think, have a really skewed misunderstanding of like what it is like to be in those big family dynamics. Yeah. And now I have 3 kids, you have 3 kids. Yeah. Like, I feel like I'm just constantly like being the moderator between like these 3 amateur wrestlers, you know what I mean? Who are like all wildly different personalities with different masks and makeup and stuff, you know what I mean? Yeah. And like, and it's very real. It's taught me a lot about how to deal with people.
Yeah. I think I too, like sometimes I'd be like, oh gosh, that person is just so serious all the time and so responsible and boring. And then now I go, oh, they're probably firstborns. You know what I mean? Yeah. They're bred to be responsible, bred to
they're carrying the weight of their whole family.
Yes. Yeah. And I think now
they're also the first ones to start parenting their parents as they get older. It all just kind of...
It's crazy.
The table flips right onto the firstborn.
I think my wife is the only one who has really broken that mold. She's the youngest, but she is by far the most responsible, most serious, most keep everybody in line. But I just think that she was just born different.
Yeah,
different.
Born different. How many siblings does she have?
2. So
you guys are pretty different.
So different. Yeah. And I think she came from a family that was decently affluent, and I think I came up in a family where my mom was a social worker. My dad was in the service. He was an Air Force guy. And so that doesn't pay a lot of money, neither one of those things.
Sure.
They did their best 100%. And I never went without. I never knew I didn't have a ton of money, but it was a thing. Yep.
Yeah. I was telling Kadin before we started in here, if you've watched television at all in the last like decade, you've heard Sam Tinesz's voice or his music. Yeah. But like, you didn't start off in that world. You've lived like the whole rock and roll dream. You get into sort of like the film TV thing. We can talk about that a little bit, but like I'm really curious, why music? You mentioned mom is a social worker, dad is in the service. Yeah. For me, mom is a kindergarten teacher. Yeah. Dad is in the service. Dad is a postman. Yeah. We're talking like just blue collar, normal American families. Yeah. Why did we choose music?
Man, it's really funny because I think I always had like a higher taste level of things in general. Like I always wanted like the nice clothes, or I always wanted the like, I don't know how to describe it. It was just this like not a where did I come from kind of thing, but there was a bit of that. Like I wasn't exactly cut from the same cloth. Like my dad was this warrior and my mom was this like really deep in her emotions. And I had a little bit of each, but then there was this other little guy in there that was just more of like a lover and a feeler and like more of just like, but also like, oh, that's cool and that's different. And I like the way that looks and I like that way that sounds, like almost like had a tastemaker, connoisseur kind of thing. And so I think music was there when my dad passed away when I was younger.
How old were you?
I was 8 years old. I found a guitar in the garage. I picked it up, started kind of playing with it and writing songs to kind of get those deep, crazy emotions out because no one really, you know, my stepdad didn't like talking about it.
Yeah.
It was a very kind of closed door subject. My mom, of course, talked about it, but it was like, you know, it was really the only space I felt comfortable getting things out. And I'm not really like a good communicator in the, you know, like talking all the time sense, but I think songs are my strongest way of communicating, you know?
Yeah.
Especially to a lot of people. So, and I wasn't even thinking about a lot of people. I was just thinking myself, like, how do I get this out of my body?
Well, you were 8.
And into music.
Yeah, it's like, what 8-year-old is thinking about everybody else?
No.
And you were the only one.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like little Sam versus the world a little bit.
Yeah.
Is that playing into at all like your stylistic choices with music? Or do you kind of consider yourself to be able to be a little bit of a chameleon a little bit? Like
yeah, I mean, I think that like the different ways I like took in music is kind of, and over the years is kind of how I got all the different layers of music and styles. Like when I was coming up, it was like youth group stuff. So it was like early Jars of Clay record and then like the first Jesus Freak DC Talk record. And I remember hearing the distorted guitars and being like, how does it sound like that?
How does it sound exactly like Nirvana? Wait.
And I didn't know who Nirvana was at the time. Like all I knew was DC Talk. So in my head, they were my Nirvana.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was for a lot of people.
Which is crazy. I mean, Jesus Freak came out and I was like, this is fresh. This is different. Because I was so... You know, I hadn't heard anything like it. And then Jars of Clay was like all these loops and like choir-ish vocals and these really intricate lyrics. I was like, what are these crazy
Were you
lyrics?
A church kid?
Definitely a church kid.
Really?
And we like sang these millions of songs. It's funny because like one of the guys who was in Jars of Clay, Matt Brownlee, early on that kind of helped make that sound and all that, he later on became part of my story and helping my artistry, not only when I was in a contemporary Christian band, but when I became a solo artist in kind of more alternative space. He's been kind of a character throughout. And it's just funny that Jars of Clay was one of those early bands that I grew up listening to. And then later on, as I got older, worked with him. That's really in the future.
A weird full circle thing that
so strange.
I think it becomes kind of a theme with a lot of people who, especially who live in Nashville, who do music.
Yeah.
It's such a small world.
Yeah.
That like if you stick around long enough, chances are you will end up working with someone who was foundational to like, because I know I certainly have that, where it's like I work with people pretty regularly that are like, yeah, I was like 10 years old. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, even to the first time that I was at a restaurant and walking up to a restaurant and I heard my name, hey, Sam. And I'm like, who's that? I turn around, it's freaking Toby Mac. And I was like, Toby Mac knows my name? What the heck is happening? You know,
Toby Mac knows my name.
I was like, Toby Mac knows me. But of course, I'm like, hey, dude, what's going on, man? Hey, what's going on? So I mean, between Matt being in Jars of Clay and then later meeting Dan, who's a singer, and you know, meeting Toby and getting to know these guys, I think I was lucky that I picked some of the more like kind, cool characters of the whole genre.
You know, that whole thing about like never meeting your heroes. Yeah. And it's like, actually, it's probably good that you do because maybe sometimes it's good to tear down the paradigm of people that maybe you used to, in an unhealthy way, exalt a little bit.
I've met a lot of my heroes and a lot of them too now. I met them after things have happened in a good way for me. And most of them have gotten sober. So a lot of the guys that like,
whoa, that's interesting.
Like Richard Patrick from Filter, the singer, like, I'm like, I don't know if we would have been friends when he wasn't sober because he was wild.
Yeah.
Wild. Well, the stories I hear, I'm like, that he tells me, I'm like, dude, how are you alive? And it's the same thing with like Head from Korn. It's like, he's so sweet now, so nice. but he was like one of my favorite guitar players, you know, and artists and Korn and stuff like that. Even Dashboard Confessional, it's like, I think there probably was a moment where we would not have been friends. Sure. Like, he's very serious and very like, I love his passion for art, but I think like back in the day when he was like big on top of the world, like #1 artist above everybody else, I don't know. I mean, first off, I would never have known him. And then for two, you know what I mean? For two, it's like, he probably was a different person. Like, I meet all these guys in some of the sweetest parts of their life when they're dads, when they, you know, life is just kind of, they just have been shaped. You know?
I think that speaks a lot to your character too as a musician, because you're a bit of a unicorn. And when I say that, I mean that in a good way. No, I mean that in a good way. You're a bit of a unicorn in that you are like kind of a rock star who does not live like a rock star, and you've somewhat always been that way. I mean, everybody's young once, everybody's dumb once. Yeah. But for as long as I've known you, you've been married. For most of the time that I've known you, you've been a dad. Yeah. And I feel like you, and maybe this is a product of your, maybe this is a product of just like the structure of having a military dad and a social worker mom, is that like, I think maybe for you, normalcy maybe is a goal. Does that like, is that ever like a motivating factor for you in what you do to build like a safe structure of home? Yeah. And like, I, as a human being, to my children, to my wife, I'm going to be safe. I'm going to be trustworthy and if need be boring, if that means not being this loose cannon rock star dad.
Yeah, I mean, I think too, I had a lot of my like days where I was kind of crazier, you know, and I think as I kind of like got into marriage and like a lot of that went away, but I think too, like, I don't know what it was. I just didn't see much value in, I always like with people, I want to be treated equally. Yeah. I don't want to be above. I don't want to be below. Like, I don't like people talking down to me either. Yeah. It's like if someone starts talking down to me is when I probably show a lot of things that are out of character for me. Well, you know what I mean? And I start to flex. I start to clap back. I start to say things that are ridiculous. I think that's when you, like, if you see me ever doing those things and it seems really out of character for me, it's because someone's being really degrading and really rude. You know?
Do you run into that?
I run into
Is that a thing you run into?
I don't know. I don't know what it is about me, but I happen to have people say some of the craziest stuff to me a lot of times.
Really?
I think like it's funny because some of the superpower also can become some of the like target on your back. Like I think people feel really comfortable with me really quickly, and so they think we're best friends, and so they feel really comfortable saying crazy stuff. And then I'm like, wow, that's an inside thought, bro. Like, you need to keep that inside your head.
That's an indoor thought.
Like, it's like, you need to put that back. I'm like, I don't think you meant to say that out loud, you know? You know, I think people are humbling. You know, my family's super humbling, and in the best ways. Like, anytime I get kind of like up here, like where I feel like I'm like kind of puffed up and stuff, you know, something happens in my family or in my friend base. I surround myself with people who keep me humble in a good way, man. You know? Yeah. On purpose. I don't really surround myself with a lot of like yes people or people who are just like constantly praising me. Sure. You know, and even my wife sometimes like in a funny way, she'll be like, hey, I know at you're right today, you're used to people being like, hey, you're so awesome or you did great, but like I'm frustrated about this thing and we got to figure this out. You know,
because those are real life things.
I'm like, oh shoot, okay, yeah. I'll take out the trash. Yeah, sorry, I left this out and this.
Yeah,
you
know?
Man,
I notice like whenever I come home, like, because it's like ego is such a funny thing, whether you want it to be or not. It is, yeah. I notice whenever I like come home from seasons on the road, there is a bit of like a jarring, like I basically have to force myself to change characters really quick. Yep. Not that like I'm some other person out there than I am at home. I'd like to think that I'm the same person everywhere. Yeah. But there is something that happens when you're in the room and you're writing the song and everybody is like kind of either heaping praise onto you or just gassing you up or just being a part of this incredible experience.
It's a mode to even be on stage, to even give yourself enough confidence to be like, I'm going to get on stage and I'm going to do this song and everybody's going to hopefully like it, and just you have to put it out. Like that takes confidence, even if it's fake confidence. So, and then when people give you the like, hey, you did great at whatever the thing was, the performance thing, then it's like, you know, you kind of bring that with you, and then you bump into like real life, and real life is like not giving you praise 24/7. They're not saying, hey, you did a great job. I feel like I'm constantly looking for the like, good job, right? Good job? I did, like, where's my applause? You know, like, because I think you get used to an applause when you're on stage constantly. Yeah, you finish the thing and everybody's like, yay! You know? But in life, there's no applause. No, there's no after each task. You know,
your kids and your wife aren't clapping for you every time you take the trash out.
That is like, I feel like that is part of the adjustment that you're talking about. It's not like that you're a different person. It's just you get different responses to different things, you know?
Yeah, man.
You do a great job. No one's like, woo!
Woo! It's just like, yes.
You're a dad.
You're a
dad,
father. So thank you for putting the kids to bed.
Yeah.
And also, do you want a cookie?
Yeah.
What is it that you want out of this?
So that keeps me humble. I would say all
sure.
that kind of like, I think, you know, having a family, being married, there's so many good things about all that have made me a more like roundabout person, and like kind of shaved off the ego and shaved off the rock starness. Now, like when I get on stage, like you're saying, I like to put on a character and like, you know, flex, but it's like when I'm not on stage, it's not a thing.
It's like acting.
Yep. It's 100% acting.
You have to be able to like put on and take off this persona.
Yeah. Because even recording onto a mic, I have to put on the persona, the confidence, the swagger, the thing, and then I turn it off, you know?
Right.
Like producer's like, hey, could you hit that a little bit longer and not scoop this note and blah, blah. And if I'm in character, I'm like, you know, but I'm like, oh yeah, sure, let me try it again. And then I get in character again and do the thing, you know?
Yeah, for sure. That's I think some people maybe don't know how to take that off, and those are the people that kind of suck. Those are the heroes that like are going to let you down.
Yep.
But I'd like to think that like most of the successful people that I've met and have known know the balance.
Yeah.
And they know how to kind of like live in both in a healthy way.
Yeah.
Live in both personas.
I think the most successful people I have ever met typically are the ones who are really balanced. And I'm so shocked all the time at how normal they are. I'm like, how are they so normal? Like they've done insane things. Open for Coldplay. They've played with U2, whatever it is, you know? And it's like, and I'm like, I would walk around like I opened for you too, you know. It's like, hi, nice to meet you.
Did you know that I opened for you too?
You know, like it's even Matt Brownlee is kind of like, you know, he doesn't tell anybody what he's done.
Sure.
So when they meet him, sometimes a younger person in a room with us he won't notice it, but I'll notice lack of respect. And I'll lean over and be like,
hey, shape
you
up.
Stop that. You know, I'm like, I'll drop in, well, oh, you know, Matt has had a #1 in this, and oh, he's done this, and this has happened for him. Like, he will never say that. But I think that's what you have to surround yourself with, people who brag for you.
It's funny that you feel the need to be that person for people.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
That maybe
I want them to get respect. I'm like,
you like to be the bragger for others.
For sure.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I've always been that way. I think that's what's so weird about me being an artist and a creative, is that like somehow I have to step out of that to do the artist thing.
For sure.
Know?
Yeah. Do you have a mentor?
No.
Would you like one? I'd like to mentor you. No, I'm just kidding. You don't have a mentor.
No, I mean, you know, I've really struggled with, you know, obviously father figure in general. So I think really, you know, this is super cliche, but my best mentor has been, you know, reading the Bible, following the teachings of Jesus, and, you know, and seeing other men who are successful and how they act, you know, and
for sure,
and really just trying and asking for forgiveness if I get it wrong, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's, you know, all of us feel unique, but I feel like for some reason, I feel like my path has been decently unique. And so I would say it's hard to talk to somebody who understands, you know.
Yeah.
I have peers, like, you know, lately I've been doing a lot of stuff with Tommy Prophet, and it's funny, we're both, you know, around 40 years old. We both have 3 kids. We both have done things in multiple genres and had success as artists, but also as writer, producer. And so there's a lot we can talk about and like relate on and bounce off of each other. And that's been something I haven't had for a long time, you know.
Wow.
And it's, you know, I know his response is not out of jealousy. He knows my response is not out of jealousy or whatever, or even out of like wanting to get something out of each other. Like, that's been a beautiful thing. So I think that's typically more what I look for instead of a mentor. It's just someone who
partner.
A partner and a peer, and you know, somebody who kind of gets what you're going through.
It's funny. I always wanted a big brother. So like I have naturally gravitated toward, I've always had someone in my life who was within 10 years older than me.
Yeah.
Who has kind of like been on the journey with me and spoken into a lot of things. But that was also like, that was just something that I knew that I needed and wanted.
That makes sense.
Developmentally for me.
Yeah.
I don't know that I had the emotional, spiritual maturity to just go like, well, I have Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it, you know, at some point I was just like, I had to come to grips with like, okay, my stepfather who's stepping in is not the father that I've been looking for. there's a verse about how God is the father to the fatherless, and that seems to be the only thing I get close to. In, my whole life, I felt like I've had God's hand on my life, whether it's protecting or moving pieces in the craziest ways that I could never have done. And so I see God as like a protecting father, but I also see him as a father who provides, and see him as someone who gives me fatherly wisdom, even if it's just like I'm praying and I get answer to something, or I really want this thing. And I feel like God is always the one who's like, chill out, not right now, and it's not always like I hear it or whatever. It's just like whatever I'm trying to get, it just hits this wall. And I'm like, I know it's God when that happens. Yeah. And so then I stop and I go, okay, I think God's trying to protect me from something, and he's not, it's never like, oh, it's this father who's keeping things from me. Even though I had a kind of, I had a great father when my dad was alive. And then my stepfather was kind of another, probably a negative version of that. And so I've had both sides. So I know what a good father is, and I know what a not so good father is,
Yeah, man, I tell you, that's a lot for a child to take in.
Yeah.
No wonder you sort of develop quickly in a spiritual sense and an emotional sense, because you're just in your child way, with no frontal lobe, having to deal with loss, and tragedy and disappointment all at once.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think too, it's just like people hear my music or they hear songs or whatever, and they're like, where did that lyric come from? That's like really sad, or that's really dark, or that's whatever. And I just feel like I have this endless well of things to pull from, like situations, or just, I don't, the lyrics or the melody. But like, to kind of pivot, but like, I've always heard people say like, oh man, I love her voice, or I love his voice, but there's something about that person's voice. And I heard something from somebody else. It was kind of like they're like, why I love this person's voice? And they're like, why? They're like, because I can hear the pain in it, And I do think that's a real thing. Like when I sing, sometimes people would be like, oh, it's just too emotional, it's too this. But they just weren't comfortable with the pain that they were hearing in my voice, like the real raw thing. And so I think that's something that I have, that like, no matter how I'm emoting, people know that there's a seriousness behind it, and it's kind of a superpower that I got from these broken moments,
Definitely.
But yeah, it's wild. It's a lot to have gone through. When I tell my story, like from start to finish and all the different things that happen, it's like I look back and I'm like, that is not normal.
It's not. No, it's not.
And then I hang out, and I've been helping manage a young girl named Ava Liv Mabry, and she's a folk pop artist, and her family is so sweet, and both parents alive and well and really kind, and she's got a very balanced life. And I see this really well balanced kid, and growing into a really balanced young adult, and it's really different. It's like there's not a lot of trauma, and she's really healthy about communicating, and her music isn't worse for it. She's still really great. It's interesting how a really balanced, healthy family can make for a really balanced person, and then for a really balanced artist. I think it's something that I'm going to pursue more as I move forward with that kind of thing. Is like looking for people who have had a good background that keeps me from a lot of drama.
That's good.
You know what I mean?
Like, you don't have to have gone through trauma to make deep art.
Yeah, no, not
it doesn't at all. Now, I do think though that it does help.
Yeah, there's a lot of haunted, really amazing artists.
There are, for sure, and I think it supplies you with a well that others just don't have access to.
Yeah,
like other people can conjure. Everybody's got an imagination. Everybody can write from a broken place.
Yeah,
because everybody knows what loss is. Everybody knows.
Yeah,
but only certain people get exclusive access to that certain kind of water.
Totally.
And sadly, like you had that at a young age.
Yeah.
I learned too, like with my kids, something that you touched on earlier, where like when God says no.
Yeah.
And that oftentimes I've learned with my kids, who I say no to often.
Yeah.
That typically when I'm saying no to them, it's out of like deep love for them.
Yeah.
Because ultimately I know what's best.
Yeah.
For what it is they're asking.
For sure.
And it's taught me a lot to be, because I've had to grow really comfortable with God saying no, and understanding what that no is, that it's not just no, period.
Even the like not yet or like the wait, you know, like those feelings, it's like no one wants to be told wait when they want something really bad.
And also,
you know,
and especially you get away with this, especially when your kids are really little. Like I think about like my son who's 5.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, instead of no, it's just redirection.
Yeah.
Like I'm just kind of like turning his head this way.
Take that energy and go that
it's
way.
It's like, I'm realizing how much like God does that to me.
Yeah.
He's not necessarily saying no. He's just redirecting.
Yeah.
And how much that sort of like kind of helps me navigate because I've chosen something so different.
Yeah.
I had no framework for this life growing up.
Yeah.
My dad was very normal job. Mom is very normal job.
Yeah.
Finances are very normal. Everything's very normal.
Paychecks are every month right on the dot.
Yeah, January 1st, you're like, guess what? In December, we'll have made this much. And it's like, that's not the reality I live in.
So crazy.
So it's just very different. And
Yeah.
I've had to get very, very comfortable and very familiar with understanding when God says no, that it's almost always for the better.
For sure.
Almost always.
For sure. And sometimes it's painful, you know, to hear the no and when you really want something. But yeah, I mean.
Well, we have such an agenda. We have these dreams and these things that we like, you know, and I think that's all well and good. And we should have those. We should have those dreams. We should always keep dreaming. Do you feel like you have access to young Sam when you are needing to tap into like those emotions? Or as you grow and you heal and you experience something with your children or with your spouse or with a friend, do you feel like you have access to young Sam to sort of like communicate, like, I'm doing this for you too?
Yeah. No, I mean, I had a song that I wrote about my dad at one point, which there's always one every 5 years or something, you know? It's a like reoccurring thing that comes up. But it was like, this one was really personal. It was called like, I Don't Miss You. And it's basically like, I keep telling myself, I don't miss you, but I do. You know, and it's like this realization of like, it was a really deep realization of like, man, I keep living like I don't miss him because it's the only way that I can get through the days to make it work. But it's like this song was just like an ultra admission of it. These kind of deep thoughts in the verses about what I go through every day thinking about it. And then I had the crazy idea of taking all these VHS tapes and putting all these like clips together of my dad, of us together when I was little. And then I was like, you know what would be great? Why don't I do a music video? And it gets to the day of the music video and I have to relive some of these things that little Sam went through and sit there and watch it. And it was like, I felt like I was going to throw up. I was like, I can't do this, you know? But I'm glad I went through it. I feel like it was really therapeutic to kind of face that and watch that and talk about it. But also like whether or not that song's a huge song or not, it's, you know, helped people who have loss. And even if it's 100 people who hear it and it helps them through loss, like that's 100 lives and souls that have somehow been impacted in a good way by music. So there's things like that where it's like songs come out and that are accessing the trauma of what I've been through as a kid that, you know, I think it may not be the most commercially successful thing, but it's life-giving, you know?
Speaking of commercial success, you have enjoyed that.
Yeah.
But not everything has been that. You've been able to like take these detours and pursue these like artistic creative experiments and visions and it just looks really fun. Yeah. Do you like, was that always the plan? Or was it kind of like something that you sort of stumbled over after having like some successful momentum and going, you know what, now I think I can just like have fun with this?
Yeah. It's crazy because I think like when I was a kid, I started bands and that's how I thought you would like get famous or get found or get to do music for a living. And then that all kind of fell apart with a lot of just weird situations where we were going to sign. And then the other two guys were like, no, I'm going to college. And I'm like, guys, this is what we've worked together for.
But guys,
come on, guys. So they go off to college.
They're all doctors and lawyers.
Like one of them's literally a pharmacist. The other one was like working for the CIA.
Nice.
So it was just like.
But what about the band?
Yeah, exactly. And so, you know, I ended up going to, you know, college and doing band stuff then. But I was like, I put myself, it was more the guitar player, the more backseat kind of thing, you know, of like, I'm not leading this tribe of folks. I'm not putting the words out there like through my vocals. I'm like, I'm just going to be the guy in the back, you know? And I did that for a while. And then I just realized at a certain point, like, oh man, I feel like I'm supposed to sing.
Yeah.
And then when I started singing, like, it's funny because my friend Tommy, he has like, he has a million albums planned out from now until he's dead.
Good Lord.
He knows exactly what he's going to do. All these like, I got to try this and this and this. And sometimes I tease him. I'm like, dude, you're not going to have enough time.
Yeah.
How are you going to have enough time to do all these records you're thinking? And I'm like, you're going to probably die before you finish every idea you have, because he has so many and they're all really good.
I'm really jealous of people who have that much creative gas.
Bro, it's insane.
It's actually frustrating.
It's insane.
So for instance, right now this year, like we have a year off of touring.
Yeah.
And I had all these, like, I'm going to do blah, 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 and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do another project.
Yeah.
And this morning, just to time and date this thing.
Yeah.
This morning, I woke up having coffee. I look at my phone and it's April 1st.
Yeah.
And the biggest April Fool's joke ever on me is that it's April 1st. And I'm like, no. It's January.
Yeah.
No. How could we already be here? I had all these dreams.
Yeah.
And it's just none of it's gonna happen. Like I'm like, yeah, I'm the year's over. The year's over. From a creative,
it can get away.
It can get away so fast, and the amount of like time and energy and planning and blah 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 that it takes to do these creative ventures.
Yeah.
Man, that time is the quickest thing you lose.
Oh, for sure.
And you have so little of it, especially when you've got 3 kids and whatever. It's just like like we had one that got sick. 3 days go by.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because
just knock 3 days out, and you're like, well, there goes that.
I'm not gonna get that back. That's it. It was 3 days being covered in snot and
I think too, like, the people I surround myself are annoyingly efficient. Like literally some of them won't go downtown unless they have multiple bundled things that they're going to do down there.
Good Lord.
And then they come back because they're like, if I leave my studio, it takes this much out of my day. And I wake up at, 8 o'clock to work from 8 until this time. And then from this time to this time. And then at 5.
Is this Howard Hughes? Who are you talking about right now?
It's crazy.
This is insane.
It's
These
Tommy.
people are musicians. These people are musicians.
Like, yes.
These people are musicians. These people are the loser musicians that didn't get girlfriends in school.
Bro,
all of our dads think we're
crazy.
slackers.
Even Matt Brownlee's the same way. It's like this, like just nonstop robot, and I'm like, how are you doing this?
How are you doing? I don't understand it. And I would say, just having known you for a long time, you're an efficient dude.
I definitely, but my thing is like I don't really plan out like that. I more do like, okay, this is super compelling to me right now. I'm gonna chase this compelling thing. I'm gonna chase it to the end, and then when I get up to the end of that compelling thing, I stop, and I'm like, what else would be fun?
What else?
And then I chase the next thing and I chase that down. It's like I don't have a long list of things to be done because I think for one, that stresses me out. But for two, I think that that's just not how my brain works. And someone was like, when do you think you would transition from doing the artist thing to more business, like even music business? Because they hear me talk about business all the time, and I'm managing this young girl. And I'm like, honestly, when I stop finding compelling ideas to chase down.
I think that's an odd question to ask a creative.
It is. I mean,
that's like saying like Picasso.
Yeah.
Like, when are you going to stop painting and become a CPA? It's just like,
for real. Yeah. When are you going to get a real job?
When are you going to? Yeah. It's like, I'm a painter.
I think no matter what, I'll always write songs in some form with my friends. I think like the community of that, even alone, whether it gets put out or people hear it or not, I'll always make music with friends because I love that experience of like walking in with nothing, creating something, sitting back and listening to this thing we created and being like, wow, how beautiful is it that we took an emotion and made it into a thing, you know? And this didn't exist before now. And it's like, that's really the only thing. That's the only reason why I do it. I don't do it so people can hear it and be like, I love it. Like, I love when people love it, but I do it because I want this feeling to get put into a piece of art that someone can turn from all sides and be like, wow. How neat is that? You know?
That's very cool. You have like the rare superpower of like seemingly bottomless creativity and also business savvy, which is unusual for an artist. I feel like they're out there. You're certainly one of them. But I will say it's unusual for an artist. Most artists, myself included, are so bad at business. Man. I am so bad at business.
I think
no. I am so bad at it.
There's so many people too that I feel like are more talented than me, or that I feel like are more prolific or whatever. But sometimes that genius is a curse, because it takes up so much space in their heart and in their head. It leaves no room for some of the business side or the logic side, and it takes some taking art and monetizing it in some way so you can be a functioning adult, Like I have just so many friends who like, even back home in Atlanta, who are just still working a waiter job at like almost 40, chasing the music thing. And I'm just like, I get it, because I just would never give up either. But also like, dang, like, how could you not have figured out a way to make more money on this? You know, you're so talented. Your songs are so good. It's like, it's nothing to do with them and everything to do with how they're doing it. You know, you can't just, if something's not working, you pivot. Something's not working, you pivot until you hit gold or you hit oil. And it's like, okay, then you work on that. And then it's like, okay, there's nothing there anymore. Pivot again. Which angle? It's always music. It's always songwriting. It's always art. But in what way?
Man, that's,
you know, what genre and what style? Like even this year, you know, it's like my first #1 song was Sum 41, and it's on alternative radio. And it's like, that was not on my bingo card, but that was part of like taking a couple years pivoting into a rock record that then turned into writing with some of my favorite folks that then ended up having a song on their very last record. Like part of my mission this year, the last couple of years, was like, I want to be part of music history. And part of that is like, okay, I have the last single, radio single for Sum 41 on their last record. And it went #1. That feels like music history. I'm like, that's so cool. I was a part of it. Even if it was a tiny little speck, I was one hand lifting this thing up with a million other hands. And that feels special. And so I think, you know, I think the business side of me loves that will create an income for my family, and that leads to more opportunities. But the art side of me goes, wow, I was a small part of this story, you know?
And you were like a fan of Sum 41.
Yeah, growing up. I mean, that whole scene, even, you know, there's tons of that where I'm like sitting with somebody and looking at them like, I used to have a poster on my wall of you. You know,
we're
like,
just hanging out.
And I'm just like, now we're just chilling, and you're telling me about your,
eating burritos, like, you know,
you're telling me about your whatever thing that you're building at your house at this awesome place, and you know, or you're telling me about your woes with this, that, and the other, and I'm going,
with the hot tub,
just like me.
The hot tub that keeps breaking.
I'm like, they're just like me. You know, and you know, they're getting older as I'm getting older, and I'm like, oh my gosh, these are like old men rock stars. You know?
How cool though it is to be a part of that. Like
it's pretty awesome to get their wisdom on things too, where they're like, hey, this is special. You should push on that.
I love that.
Like they can hear it, you know?
That's interesting too, in light of like navigating life without a mentor. But you still have like somehow these voices from like your formative years as a musician kind of saying like, hey, have you looked at what you've been doing over here? That's pretty cool. That to me is sort of like the ultimate confirmation that I'm on the right track. Like I don't know that it can get more specific. Like I'm on the right track. So you've got this business savvy, and you've also got this music. And then like, was there ever a moment where you were like kind of holding the two as like a fork in the road? Do I kind of like choose this other route, or do I just like, I'm just gonna like, when did you just decide like it's gonna be music, it has to be music?
Oh man, I don't even know if I knew that business was even an option. I think I always just was like, okay, I gotta do music, I gotta do this thing. And so I think it was later on when I started to see that like, that the different, you know, you don't know what skills you have until you look at like, oh, that person doesn't have that. I have that. That's kind of neat. Maybe I could do something with that, you know? And so I think recently I've really leaned into it, you know, with this management side, and I've got like an artist development thing, because I really want to leave a group of artists with as much knowledge as I can give them and as much help as I can give them. And there's just a lot of like wolves out there. So it's nice to be part of like protecting a little piece of the creative community that's like, not these guys, like you can't touch this, you know? And so I think, you know, it's funny because I think, even my wife, you know, she's like, so what, you know, what are you thinking about? Like, you know, like kind of doing even more business. And I'm like, man, I'm just going to let things overlap. They always have, you know, from going from being a guitar player into writing for that genre, and then going from writing for that genre to writing for a different thing and being an artist. And now there's a bit of like artist overlapping into the rock world, and then maybe some business side. It's like everything overlaps. You can't, okay, I'm quitting this now and I'm doing this. It's like, that's not how life is. It's not real.
It's not.
It's not real at all. You have to have things overlap and have almost two jobs at once and feel uncomfortable to get to the next place. And I think that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to let things overlap to where when this business thing, this management thing, or this artist development thing becomes so big, I can't do both. That's when I'll be like, okay, I'm pressing pause on this, and maybe I'll do 2 records a year for this artist stuff, but the rest of my time will be on helping this artist that's blowing up and getting massive. You know?
Love it.
So that's my hope. I'll never stop creating, but I do think there will be a season where I'm like, I'm old, like, y'all don't want to hear any more of this from me.
See, but I think that depends on the listener, because I love listening to like the guys who were like influential in the 70s. I love listening to the stuff they were making in the 90s.
Dude, it is kind of crazy.
Because it's kind of crazy. It's like it may not be like the coolest thing they've ever done. Yeah. But there's a depth there that maybe wasn't there 30 years before, 20 years before. So I mean, I do hope that like you hit that era of your life and you're still pushing stuff out there.
It would be sick. I hope that's my path, because I don't really see any example of that. Yeah. It tends to be a really hard cutoff where people lose the inspiration, they lose that spark, they lose the skill, and then they just kind of find their way into business. It's like I haven't really seen anybody where they're a record executive or they're a manager, but they're also on the side making records that people are still enjoying.
Absolutely.
But everybody's story is different, so maybe I can do it.
It does feel like there's this weird like taboo rule that if you live, especially here in Nashville, it's like if you work in the industry, you can't also play in the industry.
For sure.
And I don't, because I can't really think of many people that I know who do both.
No.
And I'm kind of like, man, like I would like as an artist to know that like my A&R has been on the bus.
I agree. Has, like, I think it's like when someone's giving you advice and you're basing your life and what your choice as an artist off of it, they better have some real experience, not just like, well, I think that's the best idea because I know best. Right. Or like, hey, actually, when this happened to me as an artist and I did this, it was a bad decision and this is how it played out. You can avoid this. Like
for sure.
That's more what I think I'm trying to do. And I think too, like, things are so different now, artist-wise. The artists, like, I'm watching them so good at social media, so good at making these pieces of content on video and popping their music off with that. And I'm watching every time they post, it goes whoop, boom. And I'm like, how did you do that? Yeah. So I'm even learning stuff from them in that way. Yeah. But it keeps me young, honestly, hanging out with these young artists, and I'm learning new little things from them, and then I get to teach them how to be the best artist possible and push into things. So I think maybe I didn't have a mentor, but I do enjoy being that for other people, like younger kids, and it's not really a money thing. If I never make any,
keeps me young.
Yeah, if I say,
I get to watch them play with their phones and they put their
newfangled devices.
I don't understand it, but I know what they're doing.
Always talking about the algorithm and tiki-taki.
I remember when Algorithm was vice president.
Algorithm.
All right, last thing we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about watches. What are you wearing today?
This is the classic Rolex Submariner. It's the black face with the Cyclops eye. I haven't always grown up as a watch guy, but I've seen a couple people wear something. I'm like, what is that? And then it's always a Rolex for me. So I'm like, I do have very specific tastes.
You have specific watch flavor.
Yeah, I really like kind of simple, not like too flashy, but like I love handmade stuff. So like the fact that someone like handmade some of this and put them all together and it's made of a special steel and like that just scratches all the itches.
I love that.
That is sick.
It's also like kind of showing everybody that you're in fact actually a CIA operative. Did you know that Rolex Submariners are given to CIA like undercover guys?
No way.
As like a last stitch effort if they should ever need a bartering tool.
No
it's
way.
Always the watch, and it's always a Rolex, always.
That's crazy.
Pretty crazy. Dude. So everything that I think I knew about you, I'm now questioning.
Yeah, I mean, music's been really important, but my warrior self is even better. Important. That would be sick. I would love if I was a secret CIA operative.
Well, the thing is that like, well, the thing is that you might be, and none of us would know.
You would never know.
The only tell would be the watch.
Yeah, and maybe these muscles.
Dang, he's got guns. Yeah, so it's guns out. Rolex, more like Swolex. Wow, jeez. Okay, well, all right, Sam. Tell us one thing that you're excited about, and you have to play the question as it lies. One thing that you're excited about.
This sounds crazy, but I have an EP I'm working on right now. The next compelling thing is a nu metal EP. It kind of sounds like Nine Inch Nails meets Korn meets Deftones.
Let's go.
And it's about like some stuff I haven't ever written about topic-wise, and there's some screaming on it. I'm singing in weird ways that I haven't done before, and so I'm like really pumped about that. I don't know what's going to happen with it, if it's going to be Sam stuff or if it's going to be a different band. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to make cool stuff. And then, you know.
Any fun features?
Well, Ray Luzier, the drummer for Korn, is playing drums on all of it, which is so cool. And then I'm sure we'll get some features, but I'm really trying to make it like a solo record this time because I do so many collaborations that I'm like, I want to, if it's a Sam thing, I don't know what's going to happen yet. But I'm really stoked about that. I'll have to send you a little link because it's pretty sick.
So ready to just work out a ton. Listening to Swolex, Swolex, Swolex. Sam, thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And I love you. Thanks for being here.
Dude,
and
love
for
you
sharing
too,
your story. And we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
All right.
Vincent.
Samuel Anton. Kadin. Hi.
Hey.
I have a gift for you.
What?
I do.
What do you mean, bro?
I didn't bring it.
Oh.
I don't have it. So now we get to play a fun game called Kadin Guesses the Gift.
Okay.
And we'll just see how close you get. I'm not going to respond, and I'm not going to say anything.
Okay.
So this will be a test of both your guessing skills and my poker face.
Okay.
Of which I don't know how to play poker.
And is this going infinitely, or do you stop me at some
I'm going to stop you at 3 guesses.
Oh, okay.
You get 3 guesses.
One is it a physical release of a film?
Oh, we're doing this 20 question style.
Is it physical media?
Okay. Well, the original rules would have dictated that. And then once again, poker face.
Dude, I'm Gen Z, bro.
Right.
What's 20 questions?
Well,
is it the little...
When I was in Korea, so the rules of the game dictate that you must make 3 guesses.
Oh, 3 guesses
3
with
guesses.
Yes or no
You must
responses.
make 3. Is it? No, I'm not going to say yes. I'm not going to say no.
3 guesses and then guess something. Or
No, Kadin.
Okay, wait,
you
wait,
must
wait.
make. This is not hard.
Okay.
You must make 3 guesses.
Okay.
A guess is when you.
Okay.
You could say,
Okay.
is it a? No, actually, don't even ask. It cannot be in the form of a question.
Yes or no. It's just you just say it.
Make 3 statements about what it is. It is a blank. It is a blank. So this is reverse Jeopardy. Is it Jeopardy?
Yeah.
You wouldn't know. You're 10 years old.
Yeah, I know.
It would be. Is it a?
Jeopardy.
Is it an A? Is it a B? No, it is a. It's not a question. It is
a statement. Yeah.
And then pause, and I will absorb the information and not respond.
Okay.
And then you will say it is a B. Once again, absorb the information, and then you will say it is a C. And I, once again, for a final time, will absorb the information, and then dismiss the audience.
I love the world where this is like a high profile, like
court case.
It's like a high profile examination of what gift you actually should get me. Like there's no gift yet.
Well, see, the thing is that this would be a brilliant way to actually get somebody and just knock it out of the ballpark.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, I got a gift for you. I'm not going to tell you what it is, sweetheart, but you have to guess. And I will not respond.
Okay, here we go.
All right, here we go.
I'll do it for real.
The way you could throw me off is by guessing things that you would never actually want, but might be given to you based on someone else's Okay, you know what? I'm giving you too much.
Here we go.
All right, here we go.
It is a...
Number one,
it is a physical release of a film.
Interesting.
Blu-ray / 4K UHD.
Are we still on number one?
Laserdisc /
He's having a stroke. What's happening right now?
That's still number one.
Okay, we're still on number one. Okay.
Number two.
Okay.
It is a book of some sort.
Interesting.
Photo book, coffee table book.
Okay.
Etc.
Okay.
3. It is some sort of food item. i.e. a sourdough starter. Or a cabbage.
A cabbage.
Or something.
Yes, Kadin. I got you a cabbage and then forgot it. And we'll have to give it to you
I love it. I forgot
in
that.
like a week. And it's
that cabbage,
it's gonna be the worst gift.
That's all I got. I'm sorry.
Interesting guesses.
Yeah.
All very different in nature.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm just gonna tell you right now. It's a cabbage.
Okay.
And
Thank God.
it's just
Thank God.
getting hot in the car right now. Just so hot. This is the hottest cabbage.
You forgot it downstairs.
Yeah.
I love that.
Right. So it is actually, now that it's been like hot and fermented, both a cabbage and a sourdough starter.
Oh, kimchi. Yeah. Great.
It'll go great on your breakfast tacos.
Okay.
All right, well, that was an exciting segment. Well, join us next time, and we will find out what was the gift. Was it a physical form of media? And then you rambled off a bunch of things. Was it a book, either photo or coffee table, which are kind of the same thing?
Yeah, they're the same. It depends.
Or was it a cabbage? The answer on the next episode of Burning Daylight.